Another episode of This Week with Sabir. In this week's hot seat is Simon Severino. Simon helps business owners in SaaS, that's software as a service, and services discover how to run their companies more efficiently, which results in sales that soar. He created the strategy sprints method, and actually, he's written this fabulous book right here, which I believe is available on Amazon. You can grab a copy. So that's the book, Strategy Sprints by Simon Severino, and he's the CEO and founder of Strategy Sprints, which is a global team of certified strategy sprints coaches, which offers a customized strategy to help clients gain market share and work in weekly sprints, which results in fast execution. He's also a Forbes Business Council member and a contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine and a member of Duke Corporate Education. Simon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sabir. Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
So I think I always like starting with the backstory of our superhero. So if you can tell us, there's always a reason why people become an entrepreneur. What's your reason for doing that?
I guess the main reason why we become entrepreneur is that we are utterly unemployable. In my case specifically, I'm a freedom guy. I'm a freedom person. The highest value for me is I decide the flow of the day. I decide what I do, when I do it, with whom. And so the
It's a
direct
global pandemic, by the way, Simon. Global pandemic. Audience, Simon is in Vienna, Austria. He's not in the US. So when he's saying these things, his perspective is from Austria's perspective, but it's a global problem. It's a global pandemic. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, Simon.
Exactly. It's a pandemic. It's full of these kind of people out there. And yeah, the freedom people, they want to decide how they spend their day. And very specifically, right, with whom do I want to work? What is the impact that I want to have? And what are relationship that I want to serve? And for me, the direct path to go there was entrepreneurship because you create your own job, you create jobs for others. I love it. It's creative and it's intense and it's impactful. So that was my road to entrepreneurship.
So, I mean, whenever you start a journey, like especially with entrepreneurship, and I know that a lot of our audience members are very young entrepreneurs also, right? They probably are in middle school or even high school. Some of them are in college also. That they start their journey pretty early enough. I can tell you, I can write a book. I think I may have written a book already about the entrepreneurial journey, right? It's a difficult path. It's a and you come across many different issues, but my issues and my journey is very different than your journey, Simon. So in your case, what do you think? What was the hardest part of becoming an entrepreneur in year one?
I was quite surprised that it was much harder than I thought. So, first 6 years of my career, I was in a global consultancy and I was a strategy advisor. So, they would fly me into New York and to Paris and to Shanghai, and I would be in very fancy suits, fancy rooms with a board, and they would say, how do we scale this product over that landscape? And I would say, oh, that's easy. Just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here are the slides. Next month I come back and we do it. And you report what happened, right? And what's missing. And we work on what's missing. And then I would come back 1 month later and they would have done maybe 70%. And I was like, why didn't they just do everything, right? It's easy. I wrote it down. It's step by step. That was when you are a consultant and you deal with entrepreneurs, you think it's easy because you have time to think it, to systemize it, to create a checklist, and you are in theory land and they are in real land,
And practical.
in the practical land, right?
Yeah.
Then I was on the other side. I start my own business, Strategy Sprints, and now I realize, oh my God, it's really hard. Even if I still have those 8 points in my head and I have those checklists and those blueprints and they are in the book, by the way, 1-to-1, I'm giving them all away. But it's still tough when you are in the thick of it, because you have hundreds of things in a day coming at you, right? In that country, that person just fired themselves, and then in that other country you have this legal problem coming, and then the product has this little part that doesn't fit together with that other part, and that freelancer who was working on it did not communicate it to the other freelancer, and so you have 100 problems every day, and it's tough. And then you have weeks like this one with FOMC meeting, inflation, broken supply chains, and that is just, double trouble. And so that was the hardest part when you're in the thick of it. And especially the first year, you are the marketing department, you are the sales department, you are the operations and delivery department, and you are the CEO.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson that I learned in when I was starting out, right? When you work for a company, right? It could be a 20-person company. The thing is, it's 20-person company. It could be 20,000-person company, right? But let's say if it's even 20-person company, there is somebody handling payroll, somebody handling the phones, somebody who takes care of the kitchen to make sure that the kitchen is clean, the bathrooms are clean, somebody who makes sure that the bills are being paid, somebody who runs to the bank to make sure that payroll, that people can get their paychecks, right? The first thing as an entrepreneur, I think the first lesson you learn is you need to put that infrastructure in place. That infrastructure existed and you were utilizing that infrastructure. That doesn't exist anymore. You have to build it in order to utilize it. But the good thing is, in 2022, a lot of those services you could offload it. You could outsource those things like accounting and payroll and things of that, insurance and other types of things. You could, but you have to know to do that. If you don't know it, if you don't know, you don't realize what's involved in it. And let's say you're an entrepreneur who's really good at engineering something, right? Like a product development. Yeah. And you go and you become an entrepreneur. That's just one small piece of the entrepreneurship. Not It's a tiny piece, right? So if you don't put the right people or the right infrastructure in place, you'll learn a very hard lesson very quickly.
Yes. Hiring is one of the chapters. It's chapter 12 and chapter 13. In chapter 12 is what you do before you hire. And
Hmm.
hiring, means also taking the decision to outsource it. You're hiring somebody to do it outside your organization, or you're hiring somebody full-time on your team, or you're hiring somebody remotely. There are many variations, but the process is very similar. And it starts chapter 12. I share the blueprints, what I do before hiring, because there is some preparation work to do before. I learned it the hard way. You have first to really describe the role, how the role looks like when it's 100% successful, and what are estimations of how much each area and task is supposed to be in terms of time, and how often they will report back each task, daily, weekly, monthly, especially at the beginning, and how often you review that role. And these things need to be done before. And then there is the posting the job and the interview process itself in different rounds with some demos in between, something practical where you see them working. And then there is the third part of the process, which is how do you onboard them in a way that is easy and they get directly into productive creative work, and not just hanging around learning stuff for weeks. So it's a three parts process, and there are three chapters in the book just dedicated to that, with the blueprints. And even with the blueprints, it's still a lot of work, and it still will have a lot of problems in there, because sometimes you onboard the wrong people, sometimes you onboard the right people, but they leave you after 2 months, and then you start from scratch. So hiring is still quite a big thing for all of us. It takes a lot of time and nerves, but it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things last week I had Cody Bramlett, who's a supplement millionaire, He coaches supplement companies or supplement brands to grow their sales. And one of the things that we discussed was that you have to realize as an entrepreneur the skill set you have and what skill sets you don't have, right? And the faster you learn that, and then you fire yourself from all of those other things that you should not be in, right? And knowing your history and have reading the book, yeah, you talk about firing yourself from operations. Why did you do that? What came? Why did you come to that decision?
That was probably the best idea in my life, but it happened as a problem driven. So first year I did, I think, 500,000 in revenue, and it was just me. So it was mainly even top line and bottom line basically. And then so I was flying there, solving problems, coming back. But at some point, I couldn't be in Paris and in London the same day, so I was the bottleneck. I started saying no to projects, but it was projects that I really wanted to have, and I couldn't. So I was limited, and not
No, no.
just
In
that.
what way, Simon? Let's go a little bit deeper. In what way were you limited? What was causing the limitation?
I'm solving a product launch with the team in Paris, and the same day, my ideal client, Google, calls and wants to work in Dublin, and I have to say no to Google. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's a problem because, hey, I want this project. And the second is how am I building this business? I'm building it completely wrong because I built a business to have that throughput, to have more volume and more impact. So it's absolutely wrongly engineered if there is projects coming and you cannot take them. There is something wrongly engineered. And so I say, okay, I have to go back to basics. I need a pro here. I got a business coach that has scaled multiple companies, and I said, "Hey, I need help here. I need to engineer this thing in a scalable way, and I don't know how to do it. Can you help me?" And he said, "Sure. We have to get you 2 levels above fulfillment side." And I said, "That sounds great. I have no idea what that means, but let's do it." And I said, "Do you know how to do it?" And he said, "Yeah, we will find something. Okay, let's start." And then we started.
Mm.
And it worked. So the first part was to say, okay, until now, I was the delivery. I was solving the problems. And he rightly said, if you can describe how you solve the problem and you write it down, then you can hand it over. And he was absolutely right. And so I tell my wife, you know what? I'm going to create 50 videos and I'm going to explain exactly what I do and share all my tools. And that will become the Sprint University. And then I start teaching people and they become then the operations. They will become a delivery. They have to have experience in scaling business. I share with them the tools and then we are the Avengers. Everybody has a different superpower. And we can solve every problem that people throw at us, every go-to-market problem. And that's what I did. And then she says, "But Simon, how will the clients react? They come for you and then you hand them over." And I said, "I don't know. We'll see on Monday." Monday comes and I say, "Oh, welcome to the sprint. Yes, you want to double your revenue in 90 days. Perfect. Come in." Friday is sprint call 1. On Thursday, you have the 30 minutes game plan session. Let's schedule it. This is your coach and have fun. And they go, "Thanks, Simon. See you later." No
Nothing
problem.
happened, right?
And I tell my wife, "Nothing happened." And she goes, "Oh, that's true." Because, they are worried about their journey and their problem to solve. They are not so much concerned with us. They just need, is it de-risked enough? Do these guys have a proper process? Are they really good and precise enough? And do they get me and not just cookie cutter stuff? But do they really get me? Do they see where I am and where I want to be? And then the rest, they just think about their journey and what they need to solve next. And so that was a huge learning. So if everybody listening right now goes, oh, I am the delivery, but I don't need to be the delivery. I want to free myself up. Hey, it's easier than you think. Get the book, start doing it. It's easier than you think. It will free up so much time. From 1 week to the next, I had 60 hours more life.
Definitely. I mean, I think letting go is one of those habits, but what are some of the other habits you think you needed to go through? Because I know that it was not an overnight change in Simon, right? Because we are all stubborn human beings, right? It takes time for us. Either we are stubborn or we need to learn, right? Even if you're willing to do it, you need to still learn it, right? Learn the habit. And it takes about 21 days at least for you to keep on repeating the habit before it becomes habit, and 100 days to like maybe master it and start to master it and it becomes part of you. What types of habits do you think helped you make that journey, make that leap to now you were doing everything, now you're hands off? I'm sure your heart was beating like this, when well, when you were letting go and you were giving it to these coaches that you had certified, that they understood your framework, the strategy sprints framework, right? The blueprint. So what were some of those habits that helped you overcome that, and also not overcome it but thrive in it?
My biggest fear was, what do I do then 60 hours? Because basically I'm out of a job, right? I was doing this, now I'm not doing this. What do I do the whole day?
So you created that to
Because
have a job.
energy back.
Yeah.
Uh, I get energy back from the feedback, from the applause, from, oh, thank you, you solved my go-to-market problem. This is where I get my energy back. This is what makes me proud in the evening, is I did solve a real problem, or I did create something that somebody really needs, and it's improving your life. So that's for me the nourishing loop. That's the why I do what I do. And that gives back energy into my soul. It's not just a monetary feedback. Hey, thank you, here's money. It's really, it nourishes my soul. That's the reason why I do it. I want to be helpful, impactful to somebody. And that's my core motivator. So my biggest fear was, hey, wait a moment. What do I get back then? I'm just scaling businesses now. Okay, money will flow 10 times more. But money doesn't give me that soul nourishing. It's, for me, money is just a resource, like many resources. And I like to have in big quantities of that, but it doesn't give me soul nourishment. The soul nourishment comes from seeing real people, really big problems, and tackling them and solving them, and then seeing how relieved they are and how happy they are in running their business. That's where, my really, that's really what I get back from doing this. And so I was afraid, wait a moment, what do I get back? I'm so far away from that, which is for me the magic, the core of what I do. And so the habits were really systemizing. I created basically quality control loops around that first. And the first was, okay, every Monday, every sprint coach needs to report me the sprint dashboard of each client. And when we say sprint dashboard, it's 3 goals for the next 3 months and 3 numbers that measure those goals. And so there is a dashboard, and we see the main marketing number, the sales number, and the ops numbers of every week. So every Monday, I see each dashboard of each client. Let's say we have 25 clients. We go, okay, client 1, dashboard. Client 2, dashboard. Oh, why is this not going up? The number of subscribers is not going up. And then we solve it together. And then we move to the next. And then client 4, dashboard. Oh, wait a moment, the churn rate is 7%. It was 6% last week. Let's check that. And so that was one quality control loop. And because it's a system and I trust that process, now I could relax a little bit and say, oh, no worries. If something happens, I will still be also in the project. It's not all the time. It's a Monday for 1 hour, but I am still involved. I can make sure that the quality is the highest quality we can bring. So that was one thing. My big fear, what do I do? And how do I ensure the quality? The second thing was, and how do I create a brand where people from all over the world, from Singapore, from Los Angeles, from Miami, say, "Oh, I want to be in your team, Simon. I want to be one of those sprint coaches." That was the second thing, the brand. And I said, "All right, I take that challenge, the brand building challenge." And so I started writing the book. I started going on 8 podcasts per day, like I'm doing right now. And I started 2 of my own podcasts. And so that was the second challenge. And the fear was gone, because the first fear was, yeah, but then I have nothing to do. And so the fear dissipated, because, oh, there's enough to do. Writing a book was enough to do in that year. And after the book, I started going on bigger stages, etc. Last week I was on a big stage with Google, and then so you grow with your, and then came the TED stage, etc. So you grow with that path, with the journey, brings bigger things. It's not over just when you hand over operations. Oh no, then you can start doing affiliate partnerships and other growth related things, and there is enough to do.
The thing is, when you are focused on the 60 hours that you have free, right? What I would challenge you is that you're not working on the things that you should be working on. Can you hear me, Simon? Simon, can you hear me?
I can't hear you right now. Let me check something. Test.
I can hear you. Sorry, audience, we're having some technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think there's a little bit of a feedback from your microphone, I believe.
Still? All right.
Yeah, there's some kind of noise. If you want to unplug and just plug it back in.
Yeah,
just
let
your
me
microphone.
change this here. 1 second.
Sorry, audience, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty.
Better now?
Yeah, whenever you talk, that there's a little bit of a noise that comes through. Something's going on with your microphone.
All right. Better. Test this one?
Yeah, much better. It's much better.
All right. Here we go.
Definitely better. I think it was using your computer's microphone, not the one.
Yeah,
in
I
front
have
of you.
three. I have 3. Now we have the right one.
Yep, that's perfect. No, I was saying that you were explaining the 60 hours and how you get freed up, right? When you come up with systems, what I would do is I would challenge you that those 60 hours, you always needed those 60 hours for you to grow into something more you needed to do with your business, with yourself, that you were pushing off by being busy with the things that was eating up 60 hours of your time.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. So there are 3 very specific habits that I installed then. The daily habit of time management, the weekly habit of the sprint dashboard, those 3 numbers in real time, and then the monthly habit of doing strategic analysis and strategic direction and strategic budgeting. The daily habit was I started writing down how I use my time, and there are 2 questions that this template, it's the daily flow, asks me in the evening. The first one is, Simon, of all the things that you did today, which one will you delegate tomorrow? And the second question is, if you would live more intentionally and more freely, what will you do tomorrow? These 2 simple questions, as a simple 3 minutes reflection every evening, before I then create the flow of the next day, they told me a lot of things. And exactly what you just said, that I was filling the day and feeling very busy, but I wasn't tackling the biggest growth levers. So, for example, how much of those things was really moving the whole business in a 10x direction? Maybe just 20%. And so I said, all right, oh la la la, most of these things I need to automate, cut, outsource, delegate. And so one after the other, I did first the accounting, then marketing, then
Operations.
copywriting, and then operations. And the last part was sales. And at some point, I started delegating hiring, but only on the levels of the marketing department and of the sales department, and and um, and not everywhere. But in some departments, people also already hire without asking me. They have a budget, they have goals, they hire, they onboard without asking me. And so this became my way. Time management was really the most important daily practice, and the weekly practice is getting those three numbers. Show me the marketing numbers, sales numbers, ops numbers of this week. I want to see what is working and where we are winning. This is very important, and the work there was to simplify, to reduce the number of KPIs that we look at, to make it very simple. For example, one marketing number, how many people want to buy from us today? One sales number, how many did buy today? And then the ops number can be number of client referrals this week, clients that introduced us to other clients. If you, for example, if you pick those three numbers, that would be good for a professional service firm. If you are a SaaS, for instead of the third, you pick the churn rate in percentage. And then you have quite a nice dashboard that's telling you, are we moving in the right direction at the right pace? And that was the weekly habit, also quite important. And then the monthly habit is, where do we cut costs next month and where do we reinvest it to be ahead of our competitors?
Now, talking about KPIs, you have a very interesting KPI also, right? Called return on luck, not return on investment, return on luck. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, that was a fun thing that Jim Collins started. He said, hey, how is it possible that some teams crush it and other teams don't? Why does luck land on those desks and not on the other desks? And he started researching. And you know, in these 21 years that I am with teams in the field, I'm also researching. I'm seeing them succeed or not succeed. And the main difference, return on luck, who gets that luck? Because in the end, it's always, you know, 5 to 7 finalists. If you look at automotive right now, it's just Tesla. That's it. There is no second place, third place. There's just one player, and the rest is really peanuts. And then and per industry, you will find just a few winners that consolidate. But what's the difference? Why are those the winners? And what makes them win? What are the daily practices that make them win? And if you look closely, it's really execution. And I say this as somebody who runs a company called Strategy Sprint, and I'm a strategy advisor. But strategy is really nothing without execution of the strategy. And so the teams that learn more, they get more lucky. And by lucky means they prepare the field, and then of course more lands on that field and more grows on that field. But you prepare the field by running multiple experiments on your thesis. So they write down their thesis and they say, I think if we do this, this happens. They write it down. They run multiple quick experiments, 3 hours, 4 hours, 1 day. And then they measure, oh, no, thesis invalidated. Stop, next experiment. And if you run, let's say, 10 of these experiments per week, that's 40 experiments per month. After 2 months, you had 80 times the chance to find something that works. And that's the strategy sprints method, right? So it's many parallel small experiments that cost you almost nothing, but the learning is at high speed. So you learn faster than your competitor. So when they come around, you have already crushed it because you know more about the customers and what they really need. And you have built more prototypes. So you had many more chance to crush it. And the team that just tried 3 things and the team that tried 80 things, guess who will get lucky?
So the word luck actually it's not a word, it's an acronym. It's laboring under correct knowledge, LUCK.
Yes, it's pure execution, right? It's
Yeah.
volume actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you measure it, you can improve it, and if it's working, great, do more of that. If you need to tweak it, tweak it. If it failed, what did you learn from it, and then tweak it from there. Continue, make that continuous improvement from there.
Yes,
You know,
that's exactly the strategy sprints method on the level how you run a business. Because there was a lot of that on the product level. There are design sprints, there is lean, there are many things working since decades on how to build great products. There was just nothing on how to run a company that way because that process is solid. That's
yeah.
actually the only process worth trusting because you do stuff and you measure. So you have always this reality check in short bursts. So whatever that people throw at you, you can actually work with it if you have these kind of processes.
But one thing I gotta tell you from a habit standpoint, you have to be like really laser focused on results, right? Did it work or did it not work? And not on egos. So if you have an ego that, oh, my idea is going to work, no, let's see if this idea will work. If it doesn't work, we'll tweak it, we'll fix it. Because if you think it's your idea and you're obsessed about the fact that it's your idea and you're egotistical about it, you're not going to win. You're going to actually destroy that company, at the end of the day.
Totally. So on Friday, we discuss if we are measuring the right things. And one thing that we were measuring was YouTube watch time per week. And we thought it's a very important metric until some of our team said, wait a moment, what if we have a huge watch time but 0 opt-ins? And then we said, oh yeah, you're right. So watch time, it's just a fancy thing. I don't know where we got that from. Somebody said we should measure that and we were measuring that, but it was just a fancy thing. It wasn't tell you anything. Another example, we had an agency doing marketing for us, and then we asked them, is it working every week? And they said, well, yeah. Look at the duration per landing page. So people are staying long on your landing page. And I said, oh yeah, and that's a good thing. And I said, yeah. So if they stay even longer, that's better. All right, yeah. If they stay for 3 days, then on the page, that's wonderful. Yeah. So you see, sometimes you can have really just wrong KPIs or just fancy KPIs or KPIs that an industry picks. And then people start thinking, they stop thinking, critical thinking, and they just measure what everybody measures. And then you have these things like duration on a page, which is telling you absolutely nothing. Conversion is the only thing that matters on a page,
As, as
unless
an
very specific, unless you are Wikipedia.
Simon, I think as an entrepreneur, one advice you and I can both give to the audience is that when somebody tells you, oh, the KPI is this, this, and this, whatever there is, ABC, right? As a entrepreneur, business owner, or if you own marketing and that's your responsibility or sales, you should at least ask why like 7 times, you know?
Critical thinking is the one thing I am really aware of that I really want to teach my kids, and it's the one probably most important skills for us as a society to teach the young people, because this will be the number one skills. Everything else they can Google, they can find.
Yeah.
But critical thinking, how to think from first principles and ask why, and dare to ask for evidence on assumptions. Very important.
Yeah, I mean, don't, because the thing is, you have no idea that expert that you're talking to may not even understand what the KPIs are or what the
Not at
important
all.
KPIs are. Maybe some of the KPIs they are telling you is important. It may be super important in the fashion industry, but you're running a vitamin business. It has nothing to do with that. So I don't really care
Yeah.
about, like in fashion industry, do I care about a 15-minute watch through of a video? The answer is no, I don't care. I want them watching it for 15 seconds. Oh, I love the dress, and I wanted to get a conversion out of them, right? But when it comes to the vitamin industry, maybe they want to know the health benefits, so they're watching a 10-minute video. Great, that maybe it's relevant there. So the context matters. The context matters of that KPI that you're looking at, and you cannot read a generic Facebook article or an Instagram article or LinkedIn article and go like, "Oh, the LinkedIn article said this is important, and now I'm going to apply it to everything." The answer is no. you know, maybe could be an answer. That's a good place to start with a maybe, and then see if it's relevant to your business, to your geography, for your demographics. The answer may be no, absolutely not. And now you're paying attention to something and improving something. Like in your case, you said, "Oh, people stayed there for 3 hours." Yeah, but nobody opted in. Nobody cared. Was that really important?
Critical thinking is so important. And in the weekly team, really, what are the three most important numbers that we will measure every week? So it's now 4 years that we didn't change those numbers. You will change them in the beginning because you find out that you picked a number that's easy to measure, but it's not the most relevant, really. It doesn't tell you a lot, so you will change it. But after some couple months or years, those numbers will stay the same. And right now we have 4 years, the same three numbers. And you know how much simpler running our business is now. We have one marketing number, one sales number, one ops number. Even if I'm on holiday, my team can measure everything. They know what's working, what they have to look at. It's so much simpler. And because business is made of 100 moving parts. And if you don't simplify that and get a solid, simple, reliable process in there, you have too many parts, you will be overwhelmed and very, very stressed.
About 15, I would say, I think it was 15 years ago. About 15 years ago, I was leading a division at a company. And one of the things I do as part of that critical thinking is I want to see how much wasted services we are producing, like paper. Think of reports, right? Bigger organizations, they're in the business of generating a ton of reports. So I actually accounted for all the reports. There were like over a few hundred reports that were being generated in my organization. And from there, I said, okay, give me a copy of every report. I want to see every report. I know it's a waste, but I'm going to see every report. Send me all the reports that you guys produce on a daily basis, weekly basis, quarterly, monthly, so on and so forth. They send it to me, right? I'm talking about like too much information, right? That when you are not really paying attention to key performance indicators, the key things that are important for your business. When I looked through that and I said, okay, now give me the list of all the recipients who receives these reports after you finish them. So they sent me a report on a spreadsheet. Oh, this report goes to 7 people. This goes to 15 people. This one goes to 200 people. Great. And then I went to IT. I said, I have a list of people. Can you tell me how long they have been here? Are they still here? Did they leave? What happened to them? I got that report back from HR. 80% of the people had retired and left, but the organization was still generating reports for them for years. What I did was, this is what I did. I said, okay, I'm going to shut down all reporting completely. No reports. Zero reports, right? Horrible thing to do. Zero reports. Now I want to see. They said, no, people are going to complain. I'm going to get fired. I said, no, they will fire me. Don't worry about it. They'll fire me. If somebody says, where's my report? Say that, oh, Sabir is working on it. He's redoing it, right? Tell me how many people, can you guess how many people complained about missing reports?
If they don't complain, it's gone. And if they complain, it will pop up again. Exactly.
Zero people complained. The thing is, they were getting too many reports. It was not actionable. They didn't know what to do with the report. And then it just became a job. It became a job for a reporting department to produce reports. And it became a job for the recipients to receive these reports. And they could say, yes, I received the report. Not necessarily that they did anything with that. Once I shut that down, they said, what are we going to do? We have nothing else to do. Like Simon said, what am I going to do with those 60 hours I have now on my hand, right? I said, now we will produce like 2 or 3 reports. That's it. We're not gonna do it weekly. We're gonna probably do it monthly. We're gonna just do 3 reports. And from those reports, you're gonna actually think about, it's gonna take you a month to do it, because you're gonna think about what you're actually seeing. You're gonna be providing insights into what you're seeing, not just because anybody could do an Excel spreadsheet. I could automate the reports. There's no need for the department then, you know. We
It's
will
a
produce
great
the report and
practice.
do something intelligent with those reports.
It's a great practice to simplify everything you come across. So you can say for 1 month, nobody's allowed to send a report. And then you just write down, okay, who was really missing which one. And then after the months, you just reintroduce those. You can do the same thing in every room. In this room, I do it sometimes. I pack it up, I bring stuff away. And then if I miss something, I get it back. And what happens is that usually many things, they don't come back, and you have this Marie Kondo effect where you just have the things that you really miss, that really bring you joy, as she says, and the rest, it's just not there anymore.
It's just clutter.
They just amass stuff.
Yep. Yeah. It's just a clutter. Let's jump into examples. I would love to use some examples. I mean, I've been using my background. You've been using your background in this discussion. You mentioned Sani. Tell us about Sani. Who Sani is? What is Sani? You know, and tell us how you help them through the strategy sprints to scale their business.
Sure. So when people sprint with us, it's 90 days, and they come with a go-to-market question. So in his case, this is Sani Abdul-Jabbar in California, in Los Angeles, and he is an advisor to the tech teams. So if people are building something that is technically very, very complex, they get Sani as their advisor. And so he had different tech teams with different tech questions, and he was running a consulting company with different projects and different things to solve. So when he came in, he said, all right, let's double revenue in 90 days. How do we do that, guys? And we said, well, first we will simplify. Go through all your current clients and pick the one who would be your dream client of the people you are working with right now, and then describe us why is this exactly your dream client? What are the 5 criteria? We wrote down those criteria, and then we said, okay, and which of all the questions that they bring to you, what's your favorite one? Where you want to have 100 times more this question brought to you. And he said, blockchain, building on the blockchain. How can I build it on the blockchain? And we said, all right, we have now the ideal client. We have the ideal question. Sani, what about now being totally coherent, and your whole marketing plan, your whole positioning will be just that? You are the blockchain guy. If anybody wants to build something on the blockchain, call Sani. Your weekly marketing plan is very simple. You write one blockchain brief every week, and it goes onto LinkedIn as a podcast, but also you rewrite it on LinkedIn. And that's the blockchain brief of this week, the 3 things that you need to know about blockchain this week. And then so it was really simplified, like we just talked, like with the reporting, and we Marie Kondoed his business. It was just reducing to his core magic, which was already there, but there was a lot of clutter around it. And so it was just reduced and now much more coherent. And he had the discipline to really do this every week for 12 weeks, because we work in cycles of 12 weeks, 12 sprints. And so each sprint optimized one of those things. And after the 12 weeks, he had such a streamlined delivery, which made sales and marketing very simple. And because the positioning was so clear. And now, if you go right now on LinkedIn, Sani Abdul-Jabbar, you will find literally every week the blockchain brief. This week he's on holiday. I am missing his brief. I wrote him on LinkedIn. Oh, you're on holiday. I missed the blockchain brief. And so this is how you can do the positioning right, just by
simplifying around your core strengths, your core value bringer. And that was one case which is pretty typical for a strategy sprint. 90 days, they want to double their revenue. They are doing good stuff, but they feel that they're doing too much, and there is some levers. They just don't see the levers, and they say, "Hey, help me find that lever that really can bring me to the next level."
Okay. Yeah, your microphone keeps on going in and out. I think it's switched back. You may want to switch it back to that microphone.
I'm switching back to the other. Better.
Yeah, much better. Yeah. I don't know why it switched off to the other one. Now the other industry that's a very popular industry is real estate industry or home builders specifically, and I'm sure that you've had your experience with home builders. How did you grow them? Using the strategy sprints, what was the solution there?
There is one sprint we did in North Carolina where their goal was to double revenue. And then I was a bit afraid because when you double the number of houses that you sell, okay, but if you have also to build them, then you have also to double the throughput of operations. And so I said, guys, I'm not sure if we should double that in 90 days, because you can, but then you have to deliver it, right? So we have to do both operations improvement and sales improvement. Are you sure this will be a super intense sprint? And they said, of course, let's go for it. And so, okay, the challenge was accepted. And we did both. We did the same thing on the sales part, similar to Sunny, simplifying, clear positioning, defining the core avatar and going relentlessly just for that. The whole CRM was very simplified to that kind of target group. And that on the other side, now we had also to streamline operations. This is the art of modularizing. This is something that I have learned working with the BMWs and with the Mercedes of this world, because they are the masters. They know what lean production means. And when you build a car, it's made of many parts, but you don't build all the parts. The parts are ready and you assemble them. So we took that principle for their operations, how they build houses, and we said, okay, how many parts can we pre-build? How can we modularize them? How can we organize them in the mise en place? Where are those parts so that you can quickly put them together and ship? And so that was the operational work to do. And it was quite remarkable because they quadrupled sales and they still could deliver those houses because it was well organized internally. That was quite a remarkable sprint.
Wow. And the result was quadrupling the sales.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Now, there are, when you're running an organization, it doesn't matter if it's the whole organization or it's part of an organization like the marketing department or sales or IT for that matter, right? You always have costs. Some costs are variable costs, some costs are fixed costs, right? How do you turn inefficient costs, whether they're fixed or variable, into the other format?
This is really important right now because it's not in your control if the supply chains are broken or not. It's not in your control if somebody delivers. Exactly. So you
gas
have
prices,
the prices of the materials, exactly. And so it's not in your control. What is actually in your control? How you define the contract. So for example, one of our clients said, hey, I need a PR company for that. I will hire this PR company. I give them $5,000 per month. And I said that never give a PR company $5,000 per month. Define what you want to get. So, okay, you want to be one time in Inc. magazine, once in the New York Times, and once in the Harvard Business Review. Then define those three things and give them a price target. Let's say Inc. is worth to you $3,000 and the HBR $7,000 and the New York Times $35,000. That might be a contract that is variable in terms of, when they hit those targets, then you pay more, but then you also get more, and then it's fine. And this principle you do with all your suppliers and with everything, basically. Do you really need costs that are always high, even if you don't need them? For example, headquarters. Do you really need headquarters nowadays where most of the work is
Is
via
remote.
Zoom? We don't really need it. So, for example, we don't have headquarters. We have people in Singapore, in Shanghai, in Los Angeles, and in New York, and in London, and in Amsterdam, and in Lisboa, and in Vienna. But we don't have headquarters, and everybody works wherever they want. They can
Simon,
rent.
you have a headquarters called Zoom headquarters.
Yes,
Zoom
exactly. Yeah.
HQ. That's what it is.
Yes. And so these are variable costs. So in everybody takes, you need a hotel because you want to do an event and you want to rent a hotel, you rent it for that event. But when you're not using it, you don't have the costs. And this is something that I am teaching since 15 years on all stages worldwide. But right now, it's more relevant than ever. We are moving into a recession. Some countries listening are already in a recession. They just don't know it, and the others are moving towards that. So what happens in a recession is you still have your costs, but you cannot deliver for multiple reasons, raw materials and broken supply chains. And some of your clients and some of your suppliers, they just go bust. They go belly up. So you will have less. You will have less work, but the same costs. And that's the least resilient thing. You want to have resilience, and resilience means when there is more work, you have more higher costs. When there is less work, you have less costs. Zero work, zero costs. That's ideal. That's how nature organizes, right? And so when you're running, you need more oxygen. But if you're just sitting, you don't need that much oxygen. That's how every dynamic system organizes. And so think about it. Go through your biggest cost positions and turn them from fixed costs into variable costs. Because it's fine to pay more if you are getting a lot. But it's not fine if you're getting nothing and you still are paying. That might be something. And let me tell you straight, what's the difference between the people who survive a recession as a business and the people who don't? It's liquidity and cash flow. Now, it's not about profits. It's not about revenue. This is liquidity and cash
Just
flow.
cash in the bank.
Yes. Can you pay the next bills? That's the most important thing when you go through a bear market or a recession, liquidity and cash flow. And that means cost management, just turning them into variable costs. Like all my costs are variable costs. Whatever happens to strategy sprints, we are so resilient, we can move forward 5 years in the worst case.
Yep. I mean, the example you gave of do you really need a headquarters, right? I mean, just to kind of simplify that a little bit more, if you're a business owner, commercial property lease is anywhere from 5 years to 10 years you need to commit to in order to get this space, because you're going to be modifying it for your needs, right? What I would argue is if you have 20, 25 people or 50 people working in your organization, you could have 2 major events in a year. A summer barbecue where you fly everybody in, pay for their food, lodging, everything, and great entertainment. And you can do the same thing during the holidays. And it will be cheaper for you to do that than for you to have a 10-year lease.
Yes. And what will people remind more? What will be the better experience?
The amazing holiday party and the barbecue party they had.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, we have like 5 minutes left, and I want to focus on the global pandemic has created opportunities, but it has created also challenges, right? For every organization, everything. I mean, e-commerce grew like this, which is great, right? But retail went down. When you think about, supply chain issues, everyone is suffering from it, right? When you think about employment, I mean, especially in the United States, unemployment is very low. That means for you to find the right people to work in your organization is very difficult, right? And some people are overemployed, meaning that they have 2 or 3 jobs that they're working on. Not I'm not talking about contractors. They're working 2 or 3 full-time jobs basically, right? Because their expertise or skill set is needed. Or even if you're a lower skilled person, you are overemployed. You have too many jobs now. To inflation, to gas prices, UPS, FedEx, USPS, everybody jacked up their price because of extra surcharge, fuel surcharge. So all of those kinds of things, what does that do from your perspective? When you're thinking about strategy sprints, thinking about that, how do you solve for those kind of like events that are not only impacting you, it's a worldwide event that's impacting everybody, your entire, any actor that's in your story, it's definitely impacting them.
Very relevant questions. So the revenue systems and the investment systems are very important. The revenue systems, how many can you stack up that are passive or almost passive, because they are so repeatable and they work without you? And when you stack multiple of them upon each other, then you have some resilience. So, for example, you have one stream that is book royalties, and one stream that is real estate, and one stream that is an appreciating very scarce assets, let's say gold or Bitcoin, that over 10 years appreciates. Then you might have different revenue streams stacked upon each other. That increases your resilience. The second thing is, do a monthly budgeting, not a yearly budgeting. So now you have your costs, you have changed them to being variable. That's very good. And now we go to the single budget positions, not having them as an annual budget or 5 years, 3 years. I never touch those kind of things. I do a monthly budget, monthly. And so in the first of the month, I do half an hour, the equalizer, which is one of our templates. We go through, and people can download the equalizer. It's asking you, hey, your clients right now, what else can they do? If they don't do your offer, what else can they do? Your top 3 competitors, where are you winning in your 10 most important features? Where are you winning? Where are they winning? And then it creates 2 buckets. On the left side, you see where you are losing against your competitors. So it says basically cut costs here. On average, I cut 15% from that for the next month in terms of resources, money, and people, right? And then I move it to the right side. In the same month, I reinvest it into the right side where we are currently winning against our competitors. And so you reduce again the number of features and you increase only the one where you are already winning. That is low risk, and it brings you 2 meters in front of your competitor. So you are now one up against your competitor, and that's exactly what you want. Because now you have strategic differentiation, and that's important. It's a little bit of a defendability. It's not a moat, but it's harder to catch you, because if I already have a product which is working well, let's say I'm McDonald's and I have the Big Mac and it's my best product. And now I say, all right, I cut the chicken because that's where others are great. I just put in those 20% budget that I cut from the chicken and I put it on top of the Big Mac. Now I improve the Big Mac, and already people come to me because of the Big Mac. And now I'm the Big Mac king. So now it's much harder for any new entry in my field to say, I'm going to do Big Mac, because in their first week, they have to deliver a Big Mac experience that is as good as mine. And I was already good, and now I'm 20% plus good. So that's a little moat. That's a defendable position, as we call it in strategy. And that's what you want to have. You want to be hard to attack, hard to take clients from you. And this is how you do it. Every month, you check those things, you cut from where you're losing, and you reinvest it immediately in where you are winning. That's what we call sprint budgeting.
Phenomenal, Simon. Well, thank you for coming here and sharing the framework with us and the blueprint. I would highly recommend to my audience to check out the book, Strategy Sprints, but definitely go on to Simon's website, strategysprints.com, and you could find him on all the socials at Strategy Sprints. I had flashed it earlier to follow you. So thank you for being here with us. I really appreciate you, Simon.
Thank you. It was fun. And people can download the equalizer on our page, strategysprints.com, if they want to use it.
That sounds great. And thank you, audience, for tuning in live. And some of our audience members were actually talking to us about the challenges we were having about the audio, but we figured that out, and that was great. And thank you for joining us, live audience. And if you're catching this at a later time on a recording, thank you for watching it. Stay tuned. We have phenomenal guests coming up, just like Simon. More guests coming up, and stay tuned and subscribe to the channel and like and subscribe. Thank you, Simon, for being here.
Thank you, Sabir. Thank you, everybody. Keep rolling.